Welcome to today's History Upper Ohio Valley. I'm Bob Connors and I have a special guest today, Chief Deputy Belmont County Sheriff's Office, James Zusak.
Yes, sir.
And we are going to talk about some very interesting things today. You might have heard about human trafficking and what it is. And we've been discussing right here in our offices, what is it and how much do people know about it? And so we've been fortunate to have the Chief Deputy come in and he's going to help us understand what it is. So if maybe with that you can tell us exactly what is human trafficking.
Okay, I'll give you the definition of human trafficking. It's the act of recruiting, harboring, transporting, providing, or obtaining a person for compelled labor or commercial sex acts through the use of force, fraud, or coercion.
Wow. So that really covers a lot.
It's a broad spectrum of things, yes.
That covers a lot, so people can be doing just about, can be into this.
Any type of labor and any type of sexual things that they get, drug into. Correct.
So that somebody could be in the sex industry, they could be a farm worker.
They could be a farm worker, cleared a
factory
laborer,
worker,
a landscaper. I mean, you name it. I mean, there's a lot of different entities that they use these people for just cheap labor.
Wow.
Basically holding them prisoners for cheap labor.
So they're basically taking these people and with the use of drugs or other coercion, forcing them to perform some kind of labor or work for them.
Correct, yes.
And holding them against their will.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I don't even want to think that happens today in this world, but it does.
It does.
It does. That's just blows my mind. But I mentioned to you before, I thought about you. I said, I wonder if you thought at all in any of your imagination that you would ever see something like human trafficking in your line of work.
No, I started at Sheriff's Office in 1989. There's a lot of things I never thought I would see. Human trafficking being one of them. Active shooters in schools being another. Cell phones. Never thought I'd see cell phones. Yeah. It's technology. Never thought the opioid crisis would be the way it is. We never, when I first started, we didn't have people, abusing drugs at that rate for them to overdose and the deaths that we have now in Ohio. So there are a lot of things I didn't think I would see, but I have seen. And there'll be a lot more even as time progresses. It's hard to stop technology and the pace we're in. We're in a fast-paced world, and it's just going to keep getting faster.
Right. I can imagine in law enforcement, you are forced to keep up with it, no matter how fast it comes.
Oh, you have to keep up with it. I mean,
we have no choice.
Yeah, there's a lot of continuation of training that I've been throughout my years in law enforcement, along with our office. Some is state mandated, and some we just have to do on our own to keep up with things. Because if we don't keep up with things, we can't do our jobs.
Yeah, you sort of have to keep ahead of the bad guys.
You try to keep one step ahead, but they always find some way to keep ahead. It's a race, but we're pretty even with that race. Even with that. We try to stay.
So in this human trafficking thing, I'm imagining that how the drug connection here is, that people who get addicted to drugs are easily controlled.
Correct, they are, and that's a big thing because they get these people hooked on drugs, and they actually get them to do their dirty work per se for the people are hooked, and trade for drugs. It's to renting the hotel room that they do the drug business out of to keep the main guy's name out of it, to renting any type of vehicle that they may drive. They usually get the addict to rent the vehicle. Then if they have the vehicle, they can if they get in a pursuit per se, they can ditch the vehicle. It doesn't come back to them. It comes back to the other person that rented it. No different than the rooms. They get the addict to rent the rooms, and then they keep their names out of it. Wow. And these people are very scared of these. One, it's controlling because the addict needs the drugs. Two, it's hard to get the guy the further you go up the line, the more dangerous it is for that person to tell on somebody, and they're very scared of that because they may end up dead. Yeah. So most of our investigations go so far, and we try our best to go as far as we can with those. but then you get to the point where people won't cooperate, such as human trafficking. Same thing there. Usually the victims of human trafficking, they feel dependent on the person that has them working or doing stuff for them. They are brainwashed that law enforcement, they'd make no eye contact, give no information to us, period. These are very tough cases to investigate because, one, you need a victim, and two, you need the victim to cooperate. Yeah. So when you have a victim that does not cooperate because of fear, that is a big issue.
I would imagine.
Yes.
I would imagine. And the way you're explaining this, the top guy, the guy who's running this, and has some people he's human trafficking, he is set this up so that if something goes down with law enforcement, he's clear because he had the people he's got under his fingers doing all the criminal stuff.
Well,
stealing cars,
even the fear itself of the people, you know, just the way they brainwashed them not to cooperate with us. I mean, that's the big issue, and that's what makes it hard. You know, and you're right. It's a problem. I'm not saying it doesn't exist here. It does exist in Ohio. I called our prosecutor's office today. So far, we haven't had any cases of human trafficking. Now, that doesn't say it does not exist in Belmont County. But how new it is and how, you know, and how hard it is to investigate. Now, all of our deputies have had state-mandated training on human trafficking. There's not one particular piece of our office that looks for that, but all our deputies are trained to see it. And the main thing is trying to recognize it, and that's even hard within itself.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be a difficult task. So, I'm getting somebody whispering in my ear.
Okay, it's not me.
We had some of our people here at Today's History want to know about active shooters. And do you have any knowledge about
I have a wide range of knowledge of active shooters.
Can you kind of give a little summary of what to do what happens when you have an active shooter in a situation?
Well, I'm an ALICE instructor, and ALICE is an acronym. It stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, Evacuate. It doesn't have to be in that order. I teach how to respond to active shooters. But the time somebody comes in your business or whatever school and starts shooting, by the time what to do in that gap, which is 5 to 7 minutes before law enforcement arrives, what to do to survive the incident. And you have 3 human responses to an incident like that: it's fight, flight, or freeze. The thing you don't want to do is freeze, because if you freeze, you're a stagnant target. So we teach, you know, fight or flight, which is the evacuate or the counter in ALICE. It's a thing I'm passionate about. I've been doing this a long time, teaching this, and I've taught a lot of places in Belmont County in schools. And basically, myself and Lieutenant Moore of our office, who are the instructors, and we do this for free. And we go about anywhere to spread the news and knowledge of this, of what needs to be done. Because there's no way that one person should do that much devastation in one place. So we teach what to do.
What to do to get out.
You don't want to do nothing. You have to do something. Yes.
Yeah. So that standing there and waiting to see what happens is not a good idea.
That's not a good idea. I mean, at schools, Columbine was, you know, the big first active shooter incident, and even the police response, what they did there, they waited. They waited to go in. We no longer do that as a law enforcement. We are trained to go in, period, no matter what. You have 2 people, 1 person, 3 people, we're going in, taking care of the active shooter.
Yeah, well, that seems to make sense. You know, it's been my experience when you're being attacked, the best defense is to attack.
Attack or flee, yes. Yeah.
Well, I like the attack part when I'm being attacked.
Yeah, well, you have to imagine, you do what you can. I mean, and nobody knows what they're going to do, but at least we try to teach people to have a thought in mind, a plan in place, know your exits, know where you came in, where you can get out. At least have 3 points of exits. We teach all kind of ways to get out of buildings and what to do. So it works out very well.
So you should know how you can get out of any place.
That's any place.
Any place.
When I go to a restaurant, I know where I came in. That's one place I know I can go out, and I always find a secondary exit in case I need it.
Well,
And you should do that every place you go.
Well, I think that's really good advice, and I do it.
At least you have an idea of where you're going.
Where you
You're
would-
not caught in the shadow, deer in headlights, and you have that plan of this is a way out and this is a way out.
That's really good advice no matter where you are. It really is. I do that when I travel. If I go to a motel, hotel, first thing I do when I find the room is how do I get out of here if I need to.
Exactly. Yes.
So that's the good advice on that area. Do you know much about Ohio and the human trafficking that's been going on in the state overall, even though we don't have much of it here in Belmont County?
Well, in 2018, Ohio ranked 4th in the nation in human trafficking, and that being the sex trafficking and the hard labor. And they gave the reasons for that. The reasons were the 5 major highways connected to Ohio, the amount of farmland that we have in Ohio, and they even quoted the amount of strip clubs that we have in Ohio. And that leads to the sex part of of that aspect. The farm part of it, we do have a lot of farmland, and I can imagine there's laborers there that are held for human trafficking to do farm work. It's just, like I said before, trying to find that and trying to recognize it. It's usually, you drive somewhere and you see somebody working, you don't think too much about it. But,
Right.
It's not like these victims are going to come out honestly and say something, because they're very dependent on the person that has them under that control.
Yeah.
So basically they're working and they think everything's fine. They're not going to be the ones to call 911 and report it.
No. Yeah.
You actually got to really try to look at it and see this. And like I said, that's the big issue with the human trafficking. It's very hard to get the person being victimized to cooperate.
Yeah, I would imagine if you're a illegal alien in this country and you're out on the farm doing whatever needs to be done, you're going to run from the police. If
You might run from the place, and honestly, they might think they have it better than where they were, which they may.
Yeah.
But they don't have, they don't realize they're being victims. Is the problem.
That would be very difficult to find.
Correct.
That would be just amazing. So I imagine the numbers for how many there are is probably much higher than we think.
I would imagine so, and that's in any incident case. These are just reported cases and things that we've uncovered. Now, there's always more stuff covered than uncovered.
Somewhat.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, us being ranked 4th in the nation is pretty high to me, and it's surprising.
That is very surprising that Ohio is ranked 4th in the nation for human trafficking. That's
You think
hard
that's
to wrap your head around.
we're in the heart of everything, and you would think maybe New York, you would think maybe on the coast,
Yeah.
but it's surprising.
It is, but that's the numbers I've seen. What about the programs for these victims of this? Do you know or have any information about where these people can go or what happens to victims?
Actually, I mean, the Salvation Army serves as the primary service for helping these people.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
They do. They have a 24-hour response to calls, human trafficking hotline, and that number is 1-888-373-7888. They have a 24-hour in-person emergency response to assist victims, and they have a whole thing lined up of what they can do. And that, like I said, is the Salvation Army. And that's who I've heard most of all who helps out with this.
I did not know that. Salvation Army. Well,
Yes.
they're everywhere, so that's
They help a lot of people.
yeah, that is. I'm hearing buzzes here. What was that? Okay. Is there anything the average person can do to watch for human trafficking that might, if they see they might see that they could report that something's going on over there?
Yes, there's signs of human trafficking, and those would be. I mean, if you see a place where it looks like they're trying to keep people out of, as far as fences and stuff, like just it looks out kind of odd. You think maybe it's trying to keep people out. It's actually maybe trying to keep people in that place.
Yeah.
Okay. Just knowing people, and usually these people don't communicate well, at all with public, but seeing people that don't have a lot of money, but they do hard work. That type of person. People with inconsistent stories of where they might be, and it's hard to detect. And people that move around a lot of different places. Yeah. And even that would be hard because you might not even know this person.
Yeah.
And if you did, by the time you know them, they're probably somewhere else. And they do that for a reason. They don't want their victims to be social. So they will move these people to other traffickers, and that trafficker will take their people and move it to them, just to keep them off balanced and not, have any type of person to talk to.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to imagine, being that evil, that I would control somebody and keep them away from other people.
There's a lot of evil in this world.
Wow, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, there's a lot of evil in the world, and it is what it is. But there's a lot of good too. But but in my years of law enforcement, I try to keep a good, happy face. But I know what goes on, and it would scare the normal person of what my guys do.
I bet.
And I respect my guys for what they do. I mean, they have a hard job.
They really do.
They do.
And you just said something that piqued my interest, and that is, how do you keep your own happy face on when you have to see some of the worst of people in your job? It's not. I don't see that stuff much. You see it every day.
I tell my guys, you separate work from home. That means you don't take work home with you. You don't take home to work. And I do not. I do not discuss anything. I'm very private. When I'm at work, I do my thing. I'm a totally different person when I have this uniform on. But I take the uniform off. I just like to have fun. You have to have outlets. Yeah. I tell my guys this all the time. You can't let it consume you. You got a job to do. You do it. That's what we signed up to do, and that's what we do. But don't take it home with you. You won't last. Don't let it consume you. Just don't let it consume you. It's a job. It's a very important job. But do not take it home and dwell on it. Yeah. What you can do is you only do what you can do. Every person coming out of the academy thinks I want to save the world. You learn pretty fast that you do what you can do to help people. And that's the main reason I wanted to do this job, is to help people. Not to arrest people, put them in jail. That's part of the job. I always liked helping people, so that's why I did this job.
Yeah, well, that's a big part of what you do. When somebody's in trouble, they need you.
Yes. Yeah.
They need you, and that's really probably the part that would make me smile.
Yeah, you just can't let it get to you. I try to have a lot of outlets of stuff I can do at home, and I don't tell my wife anything of what I do.
Yeah, you just have to compartmentalize.
And she's a very good wife. I've been married with her for a long time, and she's, I know she worries and stuff like that, and that's part of the reason why I don't say what I do.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I mean, when I was on the Special Operation Branch Team, which is a SWAT team for Belmont County, I'd tell her I was going to go somewhere, and I always call her when it was over, say I'm fine. I wouldn't tell her anything that happened in between. It's our business, So it's the people the guys that probably come and dwell on it and talk about it. That's what you can't do that.
It would be unhealthy, I would think, to do that, to linger on that all day long and then take it home with you.
It is, and that's why mostly law enforcement people hang out with law enforcement people. Yeah. Because we can relate to what we do.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk to other people about it. Until you do, you don't understand. I mean, day after day.
They wouldn't understand. The average guy couldn't even relate to doing that kind of work, I don't think.
Nah, and like I said, it takes a special person to do that, and we have a lot of good guys at our office, and in Belmont County, period, as far as law enforcement. I mean, they all do a terrific job, and I hope they all, have, outlets that they can not get stressed about. Yeah. It's very stressful. It's more stressful than physical. It's very.
I would imagine.
It's a lot more stressful than physical.
I would imagine it would be. Do you have any suggestions for somebody who might feel trapped in some kind of human trafficking situation, what they might do?
Well, first of all, I mean, they have to separate themselves from the fear of who they're being controlled and try to find a way out. And it's probably hard for them to do this because they're so dependent on that person. But they got to realize that there's something else out there, and there is help.
Yeah.
There's all kind of help in Ohio. I found all kind of hotlines and different aspects of this, but I mean, they got to separate themselves and get away. And sometimes they feel that they can't, but there is help out there, and they have to understand that law enforcement is there to help people.
Right.
You know, that's our job. We are there to help people and them too. So that's what they got to realize.
Yeah, I imagine it would be tough, but if they have a chance, just get away and get some help.
Yes, that's their option. But
yeah.
It's a scary option to cross that bridge and try to do.
I would imagine it is. Do you have anything else you'd like to tell us about?
I could talk forever. I'm a good talker. So whatever you want to talk about.
I think maybe just when you got involved in this, probably because you want to help people and do things, but has it lived up to your expectations and dreams as you came in as a young man and now you've had a few years behind you? Is it?
It's once you do it for a while and you stick with it, it becomes part of your life. I don't think, I can't imagine myself out of uniform, even though sometimes I dream about, man, it would be nice to not be in uniform and not, you know, because we're held at a higher standard by everybody, and we're under the microscope, and with these things, it's become even 10 times fold for my guys.
I bet.
Not only in cell phones and, you know, the body cams that we must wear now, we're constantly being watched, which is, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Most percentage of the time, it helps saves our guys from false accusations, but it also holds accountability for if you do something wrong, just man up to it, because now you have to, because you don't know who was filming you, what your body, you know, you have body cams that picks up things, but it's just the way society is now. I mean, I still think that we're respected somewhat through society, but not as much as we were back early on when I started.
Back in the day.
Yeah, people, it's just the way society is now, I guess, and but that's something we got to train on to and accept, because we can't change people's minds.
Yeah, you just have to deal with the days as they come, huh?
Absolutely.
Well, that's about all the time we have for this.
Okay.
Interesting. You've been very interesting to talk to.
I got a lot of, I like to say I have a lot of knowledge. I've had a lot of years of this. So.
Maybe I'll ask you to come back sometime. I know I will. We'll
I'll
talk
be
some
back.
more about some other subjects.
Correct, yes. I like to
That would be
expand
great.
more on active
James,
shooter.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
It's been very, very interesting.
Okay, thank you.
And
She was 4 years old the first time a man looked at her the way a man looks at his wife on their wedding day. Little girls are supposed to dream about being models and doctors and veterinarians. Instead, she fought sleep eyes wide with terror of another night greeted by her stepfather's shadow. He was a real monster in her bedroom, and Mom, she was too fragile, too selfish to accept the truth that her little girl's innocence had been stolen one night when her boyfriend decided she wasn't good enough anymore. And since the little girl never had a real father, she accepted his advances because he always promised her his touches were acceptable, because he loved her. When you don't know yourself and you don't love yourself, you will fall for anything that sounds like love and feels like love. She was a walking corpse, stained with the fingerprints of strangers. And all she wanted was to walk the earth without the heaviness, the weight of all the men who tore a piece of her and took it with them. She never made it to see her 18th birthday. This is for the pain, for the stains that bath water won't wash away, for the scars left on the hearts of the fatherless child. This is for the girls objectified instead of praised like queens. This is for the agony. Growing up without a father, but all you really want is love, and you don't understand love. So one day when some guy stops you in a train station or a street corner and tells you you're beautiful, you are quickly intrigued. You like the fact that someone notices you, and you will do anything to feel like he's everything, and he promises you everything, and the things he convinces you to do, they don't seem that bad if afterwards he shows you how much he loves you. Your morals are abandoned on that sidewalk where you turned your first trick. Your beauty is left in that hotel room where some stranger touched you like his girlfriend and then left the money on the nightstand. And every night you die again, compromising your worth for what your pimp calls love and security. The hustle, the street lights, the schemes, it never seems worth it, but you have the liquor to comfort your fears. And as long as your profits meet expectations, you will have what you always wanted your whole life. Love. Love that doesn't feel right, but it's all you think you're worth, so you take it every day. You sleep when the sun comes up, rise when the sun is down. Conceal the torment with makeup and stylish hairdos. Put on your best outfits, something arousing because you have to make them happy. The men, the tricks, the pimps. This is for the pain. This is for America. In hopes that you will notice that 12-year-old girl who was forced to trade her lunchbox and sneakers for a Chanel purse and pumps. This is for the 16-year-old girl kidnapped by a gang of men on her way to school and held captive in a house right next door to you. This is for the 20-year-old girl who took her last beating today because she couldn't bring herself to let another man hold her down and violate her. We are all slaves for love, degrading ourselves for acceptance of a man that's the closest thing to a father figure we've ever known. We were once just girls with aspirations and a small piece of hope. Now who will notice us? Who will save America's daughters?
Okay, welcome back to today's History Upper Ohio Valley. I'm your host, Bob Connors, and we have a great guest here from Harmony House, and she's going to give us a lot of information, I hope. Kate Stewart, Community Education Coordinator at Harmony House. Welcome.
Yes. Welcome.
I guess I want to start out with, we were talking earlier about how long you've been doing this and how you got started with this.
Yes, actually I got started with an internship well over a decade ago, and it was at Harmony House Child Advocacy Center, and I ended up getting hired after my internship and stayed there for about 7 years, doing community education coordination and victims advocacy. After that, I was a domestic violence advocate for about 5 years and came back to do community education coordination at Harmony House this past July.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So here we have you doing some good work now. And you know the subject we want to talk about is human trafficking.
Yes.
And so I guess the first thing is, what would your definition of that be? If you were explaining what human trafficking is, what is it?
What human trafficking is a form of modern day slavery. It is exploitation of other human beings. It's second only to the drug trade, and with the drug trade, a drug can only be sold once, and unfortunately, as inhumane as it is, a human being can be sold over and over and over again.
That's a terrible way to put it, but it's true.
Yes, it is.
That's
unfortunately.
So we know that there are people being held against their will and doing all who knows what.
Yes.
How do people get involved as far as get trapped in this human trafficking situation? The victim, how does the victim get into this?
Well, the average age of people that get trafficked are only 12 to 14 years of age. So a majority of the time it starts out with people very young when it initially starts, even when it's discovered if they're an adult. Well, by then, and it would be centering in on people that had some kind of vulnerability, whether it was a socioeconomic vulnerability, whether they were trying to escape abuse or a bad home life. There is a higher instance in children that are runaways. A very large percentage of children that run away from home end up being targeted for some type of exploitation, usually sexual exploitation in the U.S. So when you're dealing with kids up against seasoned criminals and predators, there's way less of a defense, a lot of coercion and manipulation involved in that, grooming over a period of time.
Boy, that's just an awful thing.
Yeah.
People often associate human trafficking with third world countries, right?
Yes, they do.
How does something like that affect some place like Belmont County?
Well, in the state of Ohio, anyway, most of the reports of human trafficking are predominantly from U.S. citizens. So there, aren't as many people from third world countries. Unfortunately, with the opiate problem that we have in the state and in our area, there are issues of familial human trafficking that's happening within families due to drug abuse and things along those lines.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit, about the drug abuse and the opioids and how much that's driving this?
Yeah. Well, when you get someone addicted and you get someone around criminal behavior and make them feel like they are going to be responsible because they know about criminal activity, or see people doing that on a grander scale and make them believe it's their fault, and you get them frightened enough, then you're grooming them over a period of time. Where they also become so physically addicted to the substances that and worn down, isolated, like your previous guest mentioned, and kept away from a lot of people, that the fear and the idea of the trafficker is more frightening and bigger than life to a lot of these survivors.
I would imagine, and then the drugs, once you're dependent on that guy giving you the drug, you do just about anything they want.
Yeah.
Because drugs just overtake everything, every part of your being.
Yeah, they certainly can. And when different types of abuse, domestic violence, if this person initially presents as a significant other, a boyfriend is how that starts out with a lot of people in the sex trafficking type of world, that there's also a lot of physical violence that can come along with that, with the drug abuse. Yeah.
So getting trapped in this is a pretty evil thing for you.
Yes.
And so I would imagine if there's ever a reason to stay away from drugs, to avoid this kind of danger,
Sure.
would be a good reason not to get involved with that.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that get groomed to be trafficked that weren't drug abusers to begin with. They end up getting hooked on substances with the person that's trafficking them. So that comes part and parcel with some of the violence.
Yeah, just part of the control factor.
Absolutely.
And that's just, this stuff is just really frightening that this is going on. And do you see much of this in Belmont County?
I think a lot of what we see, even with the low instances of cases being prosecuted that we become concerned about, are red flags. And working with a child advocacy center, the cases that Harmony House sees predominantly have to do with children and youth under the age of 18, is being aware of any red flags, children running away from home, all of a sudden not having jobs, or a much older significant other or boyfriend, finding hotel room keys, strange numbers, multiple cell phones that could be called drop phones, things along those lines.
So those are red flags that you would say something's going on there if you see this stuff.
Missing school, out-of-town trips, becoming more isolated, not interested in a lot of the activities that they were usually involved in, things along those lines.
Well, those are some good things to watch for, I think.
Yes.
That would be very helpful to know.
Yeah.
I didn't think about the phones, but you see a bunch of phones there, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And I guess that happens. So do you see that in Belmont County?
Red flags that have come up, there have definitely been investigations. There are a lot of times that it presents under other charges, whether it would be some type of abuse and neglect charges, domestic violence, things along those
Something else like
lines.
that. Yeah, we just had a chief deputy tell us that how difficult it is to prove these cases.
Yes, very. They're very complex. Yeah.
And just frightening industry that this is going on.
Yes.
Do you know of any programs for victims that are available?
Well, there is, I don't know so much as a program, but a local coalition, the Belmont County Human Trafficking Coalition. They have a Facebook page. Anyone that's interested, that wants to see any type of prevention activities, things going on to kind of spread the word community-wise to prevent these type of activities, would be found on that Facebook page. Local law enforcement who you just spoke with are definitely people in the know, and anyone is always more than welcome to call Harmony House Child Advocacy Center.
Well, that was my next question is what is Harmony House doing for trafficking in this area?
Well, the Ohio Attorney General has asked a lot of the child advocacy centers throughout the state of Ohio to be on the forefront with the community with prevention and promoting education to recognize the red flags. To promote, let people know about the Polaris Project, which was the number that was given earlier, the 1-888-373-7888. You can also text Be Free if you see any red flags or any type of signs of human trafficking.
B3?
You text Be Free.
Oh, Be Free.
Be Free, yes. Okay. You can do that through a texting or even file a report online through their website.
Oh, well, that's good to know, because I think there obviously are people involved with this.
Yes.
I kind of believe that when there's drugs involved, you can look for this kind of stuff to go on.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And also a more transient population. There are a lot of people that work outside of the state to come here to work. Or people that are from other states that come into the state of Ohio to recruit people and groom them in order to traffic them.
Wow, that's pretty scary.
Yes, it is. Yes,
and
it is.
That could go on anywhere.
Yeah.
I think we asked about identifiable markings. I think that's the red flags you were talking about that people can look for to
yes,
to keep an eye out and make phone calls if they see something.
Definitely. I think in other parts of the state and actually other parts of the nation where some of these cases have been prosecuted, people that open phony massage parlors, phony places of business can be very careful to open them in nondescript upper middle class residential locations.
Wow.
So if it's around other legitimate businesses and they keep it quiet, it draws more people to come into that business, but you don't ever see the people that work there coming in and out of the back door. So that's what's really scary, is that it could be in those areas right under your nose and continue for years. Until
this issue with things like that around massage parlors has been around for a long time.
Yes. Yes,
a
it
long
has.
time.
Yeah.
And they still seem to stay in business.
Yeah.
I imagine it's probably difficult to catch them.
Yes. Yeah.
And get something done.
Get a little bit more wily about how they set up these supposed legitimate businesses. Yeah.
And I guess it's a little more easier for them now with the advent of the health massage, medical reasons, and mixing that all up so people won't know the legitimate from...
At least trying to, yeah.
That's pretty scary. How would you advise someone to get out of it if they're trapped into this, find themselves stuck in it, and they might hear what we're saying? What would they do maybe to get out of there?
To definitely call one of these 24-hour hotlines. they can connect them with someone locally. Shelters in undisclosed places meant to provide services for survivors of human trafficking. The state of Ohio has actually become a Tier 1 state, and with it being 4th in the nation, I'm hoping that maybe that's because they are identifying more of these cases. Not so much that the cases have gone up, but they are identifying them. They're prosecuting them, and you know, they're trying to move these things along, along with a lot of bills that are passing through the Senate to protect survivors of human trafficking.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Decriminalizing, not treating people that have been trafficked like criminals because they were taken advantage of through force, fraud, and coercion. And anyone under the age of 18 is never to be looked at criminally. They don't even have to think about force, fraud, or coercion. When people use the term child prostitution, there actually is no thing. It's out and out child abuse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, that's pretty scary. What can people do if they wanted to get involved with helping victims or being a part of that?
Call Harmony House, call our Child Advocacy Center. Definitely get a hold of the Belmont County Human Trafficking Coalition if they would like to do something like that on the local forefront. And definitely, like the ads say, if you see something, say something. Make a report, make a call, because even if it's not enough for any type of charges to be brought up, it makes people in the area aware, you know, be on the lookout for this. Something could come of this. Don't look the other way.
Okay.
You know.
Well, do you have anything else you'd like to leave with us?
Not much. Thank you so much for having us on your show.
Well, thank you for coming. It's been really a pleasure, and I think we've all learned
Absolutely.
something about this, and that it really is a problem.
Yeah,
So, Kate Stewart, thank you very much.
absolutely.